Can you guys smell that? Smells like we were right about HBAR. Ladies and gentlemen, we have another jam-packed video lined up for you. And actually yesterday, our boy Brandon, the HBAR Bull, pulled off a pretty exciting and exclusive interview with the individuals of Canary Capital, obviously some board members of Hedera, and the man, the myth, the legend, the guy to follow when it comes to ETFs, Eric Balanchunas. And he was one of the individuals that highlighted Hedera as having, or as likely going to have, an ETF approved first, even before XRP and Solana. So we are going to be looking at a couple of clips from that interview. There's a link to the full interview in the description. If you guys aren't already supporting Brandon, what are you doing? We've always said this and we'll continue to say it. He is the guy to follow when it comes to staying up to date with Hedera Hashgraph's ecosystem. Plain and simple, top dog. So we are going to be playing a couple of clips from that, looking at what Eric had to say in regards to what he's expecting for a HBAR ETF, why he thinks Hedera is likely first over the likes of XRP and Solana. And then we'll look at what Greg has to say in regards to why this is significant. Why is an ETF significant? And an ETF is unbelievably significant. And before we dive into that, I want to just recap on what took place yesterday. We reported on it. JP Morgan released a report talking about how much money Solana and XRP could attract based on their market caps and what we've seen with the percentage of inflows in ETFs on Bitcoin and Ethereum's market cap. And they're estimating the XRP with a market cap of 146 billion is likely going to see between 6 to 8 billion. And Solana a little bit less. So they're now looking at altcoins as or with serious potential to attract billions of dollars in regards to ETFs. And we're going to look at the fact that Hedera is very likely to get an ETF. And just to talk about, we're talking 6 to 8 billion. Hedera's market cap is only 12. And market cap can be an elusive thing. I reckon you could move Hedera's price with a couple of 100 million significantly. Certainly in the right environment, which is a buy-side environment. So this is huge. What we have ahead of us, guys, this is one of the first times in human history retail has been able to front-run the institutions. And we're here for that, guys. Ultimately, we've chosen Hedera for a number of exceptionally obvious reasons. It is the GOAT. It's my biggest position, has been for a while. We were in the doldrums down there at 4 cents, but boy, oh boy, what a buy that has turned out to be. I know many of you got that there. Certainly I've got a community of people that have done a similar thing. So before we dive into price action, because we are doing exactly what we said we were going to, hence the joke that we made at the start, let's look at what Brandon's interview revealed from Eric Balanchunas, the guy to follow when it comes to ETFs. And then we'll talk a little bit about actually why this is all so significant.
I was also a bit surprised that Bloomberg came out and you put a post out saying that the HBAR ETF might actually hit before the Solana and the XRP ETFs. I think your colleague, it was James Seyffert, was the one who actually did that analysis. But can you just dig into that a little bit and explain why?
Yeah, no, well, Steve's smart because, again, with this new SEC, we don't totally know how they're going to operate, but it looks good. But the current situation is that if the SEC has ID'd it as a security and it's named as a security in pending lawsuits, they wouldn't be able to approve it under the current act. Thus, those would be sort of, Solana XRP would be kind of held hostage by this situation for a minute or two. These don't have that albatross hanging above them or whatever. And so these two would be easier to push through. Litecoin in particular, because, it would be pretty much classified as a commodity. I don't think there's much debate there. So what we thought was that we would get the Ether Bitcoin combos, which those are no problem. They're going to come out. Litecoin would be next, in my opinion. If I'm just going by like HBAR and then XRP Solana after that, because I believe, and Steve may correct me, that the SEC would have to rescind their lawsuits. But again, and I'd like to get Steve's take on this, there's all these like things they've said and things we get hung up on. Oh, there's no futures, this. But all of this is really just technical things that were under the direction of the guy who used to run the SEC. If a new person steps in and they just want it all approved, my guess is they can probably figure out legal ways to just get it through. So that's why this Trump win was so huge. But it's possible the new SEC head does want to respect the staff and the legacy before it. I don't know how respectful they'll be of that. If they are, then what I said earlier is probably true. But I guess it's possible they come in and just, override everything. There's a lot of unknowns still. That's why we have not, Nate Tracy has his predictions already. We haven't quite been out there yet. We just feel like, and we've also got we had a little chatter on Litecoin that was positive. So that's why we're, moving towards course tuning. We're not fine tuned yet, but we're course tuning towards Litecoin HBAR than the other two.
Brandon absolutely pulled that interview out of the bag. Eric Valentunis is somebody that we followed. We covered his remarks or his repost of James Seyfarth's remarks and his take on, obviously, Hedera and Litecoin being before XRP and Solana. Remember, just yesterday, JP Morgan talking about the significance of this and what that's going to mean in terms of inflows. You could see more inflows into HBAR than its current market cap right now. I truly believe that when people understand the potential Hedera has. And do go and give that interview a watch, guys. Let's pump Brandon's channel up, guys. After that and the next clip we're going to play, they get into actually Eric asks, well, why Hedera? And, they really kind of pitch it very well. But what we're going to do now, guys, is actually, now that we've looked at Eric's take on all of that, what he has to say in person on the HBAR Bulls show, we're actually now going to look at what Greg has to say in regards to why is this significant? Why is this important? And then we'll dive over to a little bit of price action and we'll wrap the video up.
Can you talk about the benefits for the HBAR economy and the HBAR itself, and the Hedera itself?
I think there are probably a lot of people similar to Eric that, have not been previously exposed to HBAR and to Hedera. And so there's the awareness component that comes into just the publicity as it relates to this filing. And I think that's really exciting because that drives to just the growing ecosystem and the growing awareness of what Hedera is all about. And I think that's really where there is this potential to really bring in significant new amount of, an investor base and generate generation of capital. Specifically, I would say from, a boomer generation or generations that maybe haven't been as crypto native, because the ETF as a product itself really has that embedded custody and distribution channels, directly in the product. And I think that's really one of the reasons why there's been such massive success for some of the other crypto ETFs is because it enables, people to onboard to and gain exposure to cryptocurrency without having to, solve for custody themselves, without having to potentially onboard to a cryptocurrency exchange or a new service provider. They can use the financial service providers that they already have in place to gain access. And that's a really powerful component. So there's the benefits as it relates to the distribution and awareness. And then that to me highlights the strengths of Hedera, right? The fact that Hedera is the most used network in terms of transaction count, the fact that Hedera has extreme enterprise adoption in terms of the governing council, those that are validating transactions and building on the network, from tech giants like Dell, Google, IBM, LG, et cetera, to investment banks like Nomura, Shinhan Bank, to corporates like Boeing, you mentioned Tata, Mondelez. I mean, these are trusted global brands, and I believe that will resonate with an audience that is looking at Hedera for the first time. Then there's also benefits as it relates to the new institutions, the service providers, the research coverage that comes into the space for an ETF that wouldn't necessarily cover cryptocurrency natively. And that includes interest from future markets participants. And so I think there is a snowball effect as it relates to the institutional awareness and coverage that comes with the product. I also am a big believer, and I think Eric and Stephen both alluded to this, in the future of there being multi-cryptocurrency basket ETF products, right? There's not necessarily just single asset ETFs. And so when you go through the process of completing an S1 and the legal disclosures as it relates to covering any of these assets, specifically Hedera here, that's public in nature. And so now it's sort of an open source mentality where other institutions, other firms can educate themselves in a format that they know is already approved and can redeploy that for future products. So I think that the securities industry benefits from this, and so does HBAR in terms of those public disclosures.
I think you get the picture. Let's leave that there. There was a lot more that was given in that interview. There's a link to it in the description. Go and give Brandon a follow. Also go and check that interview out. Guys, even a blind man could see what is currently taking place with Hedera. Even a blind man could see the fact that this blockchain is going to be a juggernaut as it relates to the cryptocurrency space. And yesterday we spoke about BlackRock's take on how crypto is actually outpacing technologies like the internet and mobile phones that came before it. Okay, that's cool. It's outpacing them. But the real cool thing is actually the trajectory that means blockchain is on. Distributed ledgers are on. Look how impactful the internet and phones are today. Everyone's got one. Everyone uses one. That's the same journey that crypto is on. And ultimately, I think Hedera is going to play a vital role in all of that. Let's talk about price. You guys know what we've said on a big time frame. You know, we look at the markets through phase analysis. We've spoken about this 1,000,001 times, guys. Ultimately, what Hedera has just gone through is accumulation. This has taken place in the form of a double bottom-esque structure. That's going to take you to 94 cents. And then since that 700% move, that initiatory move is what we're calling it, HBAR has just been consolidating. And I believe this is going to set up for continuation, guys. Continuation that's ultimately likely going to take you to 50 cents first, then potentially 73. And then depending on if this is a big sort of bull pennant pole, $2. The time is nigh, ladies and gentlemen. Look at this for consolidation. This couldn't be more perfect. This is ultimately just a continuation pattern. We don't need 4 hours. Let's use 8 hours. But actually in yesterday's video, I know many of you might have missed it. We didn't just look at the fact that we were bullish on HBAR versus the US dollar. We looked at the fact that we were bullish on HBAR BTC. Let's pull her up. You can see exactly what it is I'm looking at here, guys, can't you? This is going to lead to a continuation move that sees Hedera outpace BTC. Let's take a look at HBAR DOM. That was another one that we looked at. We need .D. We looked at this and said, look, this is about to break to the upside. It's doing it as we speak. And of course, HBAR ETH. And we'll need to pull up the tickers for this, I'm afraid, guys. Where are we? We use Coinbase. Coinbase on Coinbase. It's moving. The train is leaving the station, guys. Get ready for that next multiple X on Hedera Hashgraph. I know you guys have already done spectacularly out of it. And we're going to keep winning, guys. The time is now. Welcome to the channel. If you're new, become a subscriber. I'm going to love and leave you on that note, guys. We're confident. I know you guys are as well. Let's get it. Let's enjoy 2025. I'll see you all in the next one. Link to Brandon's video in the description.